This is unexpected, so I don't think anyone is actually going to be joining us unless somehow we're
Hello.
able to get the this link out to people, which I don't know how to do because I'm an amateur. Anyway, we'll start. Somebody's on. Is watching. So the person who came on, if you don't mind saying hi, that would be great. And also, if you can let us know whether you can see and hear us, that would be great. Hey there, how are you?
Hello. We just woke up.
We just woke up, so we're a little tired. Oops, gotta get the chat back. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. How are you?
Hi.
I'm thinking. I don't know how to share. Oh, share the stream. I'm gonna be right back. Well, this is still gonna be streaming. I'm just going to be. I'm gonna just share the link, and I will be back. And then we're gonna start talking about the Beatles. Is what we're gonna be doing. But okay, let's see how this works here. How am I gonna do this? Hopefully not. Hopefully this is what you saw while I was doing that. Nope, he's gone. Can't see you. Oh, here I am. Maybe I'm back. I don't know. I
can't see you.
I will. Actually, it says share stream, copy stream, open in new tab. You're about to view on external YouTube. We recommend closing YouTube while you're live. I know. Okay. Okay. So that's good. So what I'm going to do is share this link on Twitter, just in case there's anybody who might want to join us. Live right now.
You should use the hashtags, right?
YouTube. Chatting about about part 1 of the new Beatles doc. Get Back. Kinda like Twitter, except you get to see us, but also interact. Joe, do you have anything to say? Apart from I just got up and
I'm just waking up, really. We finished watching part 1
of the documentary.
Yeah.
That's why we thought it would be a good time to come on.
So,
we're not going to talk about it just yet, but it is exciting. Here we go. We'll see if anyone will show from shows. That. And we'll give it a few minutes. And it's Sunday.
Yes, it's snowing here.
Yeah, I mentioned that to a few people on Twitter.
Toronto.
Somebody said that it's like their 5th snowfall somewhere. It was like, holy mackerel, 5th already. Jeez, that's quite a few times to be snowing already. I am hoping that we can get to Costco today. If not,
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen.
you just don't want to go.
No.
But I need to go to Kensington to get the turkey tail and the stem at 7. So I don't know how you feel about that. Hey, Carmen's here. Hello.
Hello.
You saw that we were on. Unexpected this time. How are you? How are you, Carol? And yeah, she's in California if I remember correctly. So it's around 9:30. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, A-Arms. I'm not sure that you've joined us in the past. If you could say where you're from, that would be great. Even like geographically, even. I think it's always fun to learn where people are coming from. Oh, I have to keep on this. Okay. You're doing okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And for those folks that are joining us from the States, of course, it's still Thanksgiving weekend for you guys. So hopefully you guys are doing okay. So A-Arms.
Big J's.
A-Arms says, I have not but watched since your Zach video. I'm in Vancouver. So it's early for you too. It's probably like 9:30. So we get a little bit of a later start. But thank you for joining us and thank you for following along. I really, really appreciate it, or we really appreciate it for sure. Yeah. Has anyone been watching the Beatles documentaries? Big Blue Jays fan. Yeah.
Yes.
As are we.
This was from the home opener. That's what it says home on it. I don't know if you
Oh,
can
this
see
is, yeah. So the t-shirt that Joe has on was the t-shirts that they gave away at the Sky Dome when they had the first home game in a season and a half or whatever it was, and we were lucky to get tickets to go to that, and it was a lot of fun, and we got some t-shirts, so that was a lot of fun. And A-Arms says that it's only 9:30, but you have kids, so up early as always. Wow. Yeah, even on a Sunday. Again, like, thank you for joining us. And we are going to be doing regular Thursday night ones. Just from the folks that have been joining us so far. They have said that 9:30, like not 9:30 EST, but just like later on, just on a weekday seems to work for some folks. So that's something that we're going to be doing every couple of weeks at least anyway. And this and it turns out that a lot of people that we've connected with so far, especially on the live streams, have a lot of interesting music, their interest in music. And so this particular Thursday night, December 2nd, we're going to be starting at 9 o'clock EST, which I think is 6 o'clock PST. We are going to be doing, each of us are going to try to come up with the worst music festival lineup. Not the best, but the worst, and see who can come up with the worst music lineup of a music festival that we could do just as a.
So basically, you just take a whole bunch of groups that you can't stand, and you put them in a festival, a concert, like a Woodstock, but
so Joe says Woodstock, I say Lollapalooza, so it's
Lollapalooza, yeah.
Difference in, but yeah, that kind
it'd
of
be
thing.
like, it would be called Torture 2022 or whatever. music festival.
And I think that maybe we limit it to like 5 groups or something like that, so it doesn't get too insane.
As
That
many
some
as you can.
no, that doesn't make any sense. Like some people have 15 and another person has 3. That's not going to make it fair. So maybe 3 to 5 or something like that. But anyway, if that's something that sounds like fun, please join us this Thursday. Joe and I think will also we drafted superheroes for our ideal superhero teams. If that's something that you might be interested in hearing more about, I think we'll be sharing that on Thursday too. So Zach actually joined us the last live stream that we had a little bit later on in the evening. But like and he came on. It was quite a bit of fun. So you never know who's going to show up. I mean, I don't think like that will ever beat like our first one where I found out that Ryan Reynolds had wished me a happy birthday over DM on Twitter. I don't like. I mean, if that can be beat, like that would be amazing.
Well, what if Paul McCartney shows up?
That'd be pretty crazy.
Ringo Starr talking about the Beatles.
Yeah, I mean,
shows up.
Hey, if anyone has connections to the Beatles and you think that they would be up for a live stream with us, please let them get in contact, or if you could like figure that out for us, that would be really amazing. And certainly that would be amongst the top of our our live stream experiences. But I think like we have fun, so hopefully like you'll join us. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the Beatles doc. I don't know if any of you have seen it or have. So they actually, I was wrong on Twitter. I mentioned on Twitter that I thought that they were going to be dropping one at a time. I think a lot of people online thought that too, because we were watching some YouTube videos ahead of them being released on Disney Plus, and we thought that maybe they were going to release them 1 week at a time, but it turns out that they dropped all 3 of them at the same time, and so that's a good I don't know, 2.5, like 5, 6, 7, like 8 hours. It's like 8 hours.
They're over 2 hours
each. So
each.
like, you know, when you put them all together, they're probably about 7.5 hours or something like that of footage out of, I guess they had 57 or 60 hours or something like that of the Let It Be sessions. And there was a documentary originally that was made for Let It Be, right? And the director and the original director is like just right in there, and you see like him kind of giving his input and everything like that. But yeah, so we watched the first one, and I'm actually on day 2 of chemo, and you could see all this stuff I'm trying to hide. So I have a pump that slowly dispenses the last of my chemo drug that keeps going until tomorrow, and in which case, at which time I get my pump removed, and I then kind of detox from the chemo for the next week and a half or so. But I'm on day 2 right now, and I take anti-nausea meds, which also helps with energy. And I have I take a steroid during this time called dexamethasone, and it does give me a bit of a boost in energy. So I'm feeling pretty good today, and probably pretty good tomorrow. It's just Wednesday, Thursday, just taking a little bit of an energy dive, but today I have some energy, and this kind of stuff I'm all of a sudden up to doing. So we watched part one. We were thinking we were either going to watch it on Friday night, or we were going to watch it last night, and just as a treat for getting through my chemo day. It turns out that it was a lot. 2.5 hours of people talking and like
noodling around on guitars,
and just it's interpersonal. There's a lot of subtlety that's being shown, and there's no narration, which I'm glad for. There isn't, anybody kind of narrating over the footage or anything like that.
There's like a footnote sometimes, like at the like during the scene, like there'll be like a little printed text piece saying um, Ringo started filming this movie after the Beatles,
But
like in
very,
this film.
very few.
Very few, yeah.
Just to give a little context as to what's going on. But narration sometimes does give um I don't know, like it's I don't think a narration's ever completely neutral.
Mm.
And so just in the text thing saying this is what Ringo is doing, or this is what's being planned, or this is the reason why they're recording in this space, or who could hook them up, or those kinds of those that kind of information sort of gives you an idea of like why they're in the space that they currently like the for the first couple of uh, weeks or whatever. But I think like maybe we start from the beginning,
Okay.
and we don't have to tell people I think about the documentary because you can go and watch it yourself, and which is
But you can say spoilers if you think you're going to spoil.
I don't know that they're spoilers. Just our take on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, everybody knows.
Just
what
yeah,
happens,
just everybody knows what happens because it's what like 69, so however long 50 plus years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's been a very specific point of view as a result of the Let It Be documentary that came out alongside all the music and everything like that 50 years ago. But what this shows is a more nuanced and more detailed look at the process and what happened between them, and you just really as a fan get a sense of what they were all dealing with. Not in and because we really only see the Beatles as a group of four guys who made music, and maybe we know about George Martin, maybe we know about Brian Epstein, but there's also like all these people around them, and as they're trying to so the big premise of this, and I think it's really really important to know, is that they had 3 weeks to come up with 14 songs, record an album, do something live,
Perform it live.
perform it live. This music that they were supposed to come up with,
and shoot a film around it.
and shoot a film around it. So 3 weeks, and yeah, on top of all that they were trying to do with coming up, like literally writing 14 songs, perfecting them, and now we're getting this kind of stuff, weird. And yeah, and if anyone knows how to get rid of spammers, I don't know how to do that online. Please help do that.
Stop
or
it.
or it's probably a bot. Or if you know how to manage that, I had no idea that this is something that could happen, especially on our little channel. But if anyone has any, how do we? Does anyone know?
That sucks. Is one of those things to click?
No. No. So there's.
How many people are here?
It doesn't say, unfortunately. Maybe no one's here.
Yeah, no one's here.
Well, this person seems to. I don't know. Anyway, please ignore them. And if somebody does have some insights as to how to mute this kind of person, how do you know how, Carol?
You can block them.
If you know how, please let us know, because I don't. This is being new at this, and so for newbies, we don't. Can you look it up? Maybe I'll maybe look it up. It's just you have to keep talking.
Yeah, you can block them. No.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
So, yeah, I'll just keep talking then. So I mean, so the Beatles had to come up with songs from scratch, 14 of them, learn them, rehearse them, um, play them, and play them live, and do an album, record them as well within, four, like three weeks or something. It's like completely insane. Like they just put all this pressure on
Oh,
themselves
please
for.
don't be sorry, Karma. That's not your.
No, it's not your thing. Um, so they put all this pressure on themselves, so you can kind of see why, in a way, they broke up. Because I mean, what band could do that? Write 14 songs just out of the blue, and then rehearse them and know them, and then record them, and all that type of stuff. Just seems crazy to me that they would do that. So
Or that they could do
that
that.
they could do that.
And I think in many ways we don't necessarily think about like what musical artists and performers, what they go through
Mm.
when they have to do all of this stuff. Because on one hand, um, now there's social media and all that kind of stuff, but beyond that, the Beatles, they were toward the end of their collaboration. They've come a very long way as musicians and as artists and as people. And there was already some friction that was beginning to form as a result of the fact that George Harrison was coming into his own as his own songwriter, and Lennon and McCartney are always been a team, but they also started writing probably a bit more independently, even though you could see them still
Mm.
collaborate during um, the the sessions. But and it was interesting because last night it was pretty tired because the chemo, I was in the hospital for 5 hours and all that kind of stuff. Chemo, blah blah blah. But and watching it though, but I was watching like just so many of the nuances that were going on, like whether there were people giving their input outside of the group, or whether just seeing Paul McCartney and George Harrison. Um,
Fight.
um,
Oh, they had a spat.
I
Definitely.
would I would say that they were in conflict. I mean, they weren't yelling at each other or anything like that, but you could tell that there was some unhappiness on both their parts. And one of the things that was really interesting to me, anyway, was that I think it was just a very short time after Brian Epstein, their manager, had passed away, and that every one of them would call Brian Epstein Mr. Epstein. There was a lot of respect for him, and the fact that the four of them trusted Brian Epstein so much with their careers, and I think was able to offset a lot of the decisions to Brian Epstein, maybe the business stuff, and maybe just having the people that would try to get closer to them, maybe give them like arm's length or whatever that Brian Epstein was able to do for them. And when the Beatles maybe didn't, I mean, this is me speculating here, but maybe when they decided to not hire another manager, but to do it on their
Mm.
own, it sort of seems like maybe Paul McCartney stepped up as that guy to be sort of like the business guy, or the guy making decisions, or the guy,
The leader.
yeah, or trying to,
Motivate the band.
yeah, or like to maybe do some of the stuff that Brian Epstein had done for them. But imagine like being in a group together for as long as they were, and then all of a sudden have like one guy go, oh, and he's always probably had that kind of personality, but all of a sudden, like maybe he's feeling more pressure, and then as a result of that, that comes out in his behavior, and you could kind of tell like he's a bit more of an A type than the other
Mm.
guys. And slowly through the 2 hours, or the first part anyway, that we watched, it seems as though George was really not happy with Paul,
Mm.
and
Irritated.
yeah,
Right.
frustrated, just not being heard, not being um is not respected. And I could see that. Like I could see like being in George's spot, just everything that I would say is like, no, like we don't want to do this. And Paul's, and there would be suggestions that Paul would make, and that George would be like, really, is that what you really want? So it was interesting to see that dynamic, and also to maybe consider like what it is that may be a part of that, because there's so much history there. And being I'm not I think I'm a big Beatles fan, but I'm not somebody who.
You haven't heard the bootlegs or anything
No, I
like
don't do
that,
that
so
stuff. I don't, I know a good amount of their history, but I don't deep dive into like obscure stuff or anything like that. But again, like after all these years of them being together and getting to this place where they're just have become such different people through privilege and fame and fortune and advantages, and but still be expected to come up with an album, and to do so in these like crazy timelines. I could see how there would just be flare ups. And yeah, so um, this first part was a lot about, I think, setting up and giving the viewers a sense of what was going on with them.
yeah. You can definitely see there's um, some cracks in the band during this. I mean, they are playing and having a good time somewhat, but just the the pressure they put on themselves to try to do all this at once, and not even a month's time, like literally like
3 weeks.
3 weeks. um, you can really see why they just scrapped the whole Let It Be album, and then they went in uh, and did Abbey Road, and that was like their last album. And then months and months later, they just gave whatever was left to Phil Spector, and he made something out of all that footage, like made an album out of it. Because I mean, I play guitar a little bit, and I noodle around on guitar, and I've over the last few years I've gotten interested into songwriting, and I'm never happy with a song. I've never really completed a song with lyrics. I just find it extremely hard. I'll have like a nice little riff or whatever, and she always jokes that I'm working on the same song for the last 10
It's
years.
not a
That's
joke. It's
incomplete.
not a joke, though. It's
It's not a
true.
joke, but to see this documentary, and like the amazing thing about it is they're not getting along, and I think George Harrison and Ringo Starr, they show up early or something. They're sitting there talking about where they're going to do, and everyone kind of seems out of it. And then McCartney comes in and just starts noodling around on the piano, and you can tell there's some tension between McCartney and Harrison, and then McCartney just starts playing "Let It Be," just like from scratch, and it's not the whole song because he's just like filling in lyrics with dun, 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 like with mumbles or gibberish, but you can just tell that George and Ringo are just like blown away about, because he has pretty much the whole first verse of the song, and they're just like they just kind of like snap out of it sort of, and they're just blown away about the beauty of the song and the
I think
lyrics.
I think what
And
you know.
just actually um, in the other bit, they're sitting around, and I think they're waiting for John to arrive, and Paul literally from nothing,
Or so it seems. It could be that he was working on something.
yeah,
So,
like just strumming his bass, and he comes up with Get Back, like,
which I thought was a Lennon
yeah,
song.
just out of nowhere, and it's just like pretty incredible. um, their songwriting, like it shows, how they're constructing the songs. Like I never even thought of that of just playing your instrument and you don't even have the lyrics, but you're just throwing in gibberish pretty much as a lyric until you can actually find the lyrics. So I found that very, very interesting.
Hmm. Well, I also, just from a viewer standpoint or a fan standpoint, just to see how, these four people, there's so many dimensions to this documentary that's
Hmm.
interesting. It's like four people who are maybe a little bit at odds with each other or not quite on the same page, just come together, literally come together, when there is a song that they can tell works for them. And I think that, these moments that Joe was just talking about, that they're just kind of like feeling around or playing around with, a verse or a chord or whatever it is, and then for it to resonate with everybody there, and you can tell that it's gelling, and that everybody knows that it's gelling. The four of them know that it's gelling, or the three of them who are there, because John apparently showed up late to everything.
Hmm.
But even then, they'd be working on something, and they would have this amazing stuff recorded, and John would walk in, however, late, how much later than everybody else, and would just pick up a guitar and just become a part of the symbiosis that they have as a foursome. And that is that is pretty magical. Like, even, though, like, that interpersonally, like, they're having their own differences, and there is, some tension, and even up to the end of what's happening in this particular episode, some, like, things seem gelling from, like, a music standpoint, um, even though, something happens at the end here that, probably, like, most people know about, but won't necessarily talk about it. But, um, just there is a bit of a break in things that are going on as they were, and you're just sort of like, wow, like, it was working, but you could tell that, there was just some tension, in all of them that, needed to break in some way.
Hmm.
But I think there's also some, like, really interesting stuff, that, again, there's so many people in the studio,
Hmm.
and even
You
though,
were saying like how many cameramen are there? Because we're looking at like 8 or 10 different shots of.
yeah, so many
Oh,
shots.
it's
Like,
crazy.
there are overhead shots, there are single shots, there's
Shots of
side
each
yeah, there's
member.
side shots of the band. There's a roaming camera guy. Like, I don't know how many cameras, but there are a ton of cameras. So that's number one. They're trying to, um, shoot, like, they were trying to come up with these, like, 14 songs, um, done and recorded with all these cameras around
Mhm.
and people around. There are, like, a ton of people. I mean, you could say, how, unusual it is or weird it is that, like, Yoko was sitting there, that Yoko Ono was sitting with the band, and, that could have added to the tension as well. But, Linda McCartney was there a
Mhm.
lot of the times. There were Hare Krishnas that, like,
Yeah,
George Harrison brought, and maybe they weren't in the shop, but they're in there.
they're there.
And then there's all these other people just kind of roaming around doing their
Yeah.
jobs,
Mhm.
and then
The
the
director,
director coming in and trying to give them, like, these,
crazy ideas and.
because one of the things that was part of this, I think, for them, is that there's going to be a live component to it, which we all know at the end is going to be the rooftop. But, you know excuse me, but this director is like, let's go to Tripoli and let's go on a boat, on a
Hmm.
cruise boat.
Yeah, I like the bit where George Harrison is like basically comes in, and the director's really trying to push this boat thing.
And
He's
this
like,
Coliseum
yeah,
too.
um, giant boat ship with all these fans, and the Beatles are supposed to play on it. And he's just like, I think that is insane. Like,
It's
he's
like,
like, it's so expensive. you have to lug all the gear, and then you're stuck on at sea for days.
Yeah.
You know, when you want to go home.
Yeah, he's
And
like, I want to play someplace and then go to do that kind of thing. I
right,
don't want to be stuck on a boat after I'm done doing my job.
yeah,
But then this director is like, how about the Colosseum? And how about,
mm,
someplace in Libya? Like,
yeah,
he's trying to push these guys to do all these things.
crazy things
Like,
for
well,
this film.
in this film, probably more for his benefit than
Right.
theirs. And they're none of it. It's like they're like, no, like we want to
Yeah.
play here,
Yeah. Yeah.
someplace.
And McCartney said, I think comes up, oh, it'd be great if we played the House of Parliament, somewhere playing somewhere we shouldn't be playing, where the police come and literally pull
Pull us
us
out.
off the drum
Yeah.
kit or whatever. Um, and he's like, oh, no, no, you can't do that. Like, you're the Beatles, only jerks would do that or something.
Oh, I don't know
Like,
that.
like, they were like, why don't we play like a little nightclub for like 10 people
Or
or
the
some,
cavern.
or the cavern or, whatever. So this director had these like big, bold ideas.
Or just kind of out there ideas.
Yeah. But it's funny. I mean, there's so many rock bands now that,
Like Kiss took the
yeah, well,
the Kiss cruise.
the Kiss cruise, but I mean, there's other rock bands that do it in packages, right? Like, so now, like a crazy idea in 1969 to play on a giant ship. Now, um, bands are doing that, playing on
Well,
cruise
but
ships and
also,
stuff.
I think the Beatles and Kiss operate on a very different business
No, I'm not
model.
just talking about Kiss.
I
I'm
know,
saying there's rock
but
for sure.
those guys are trying to make money,
Right.
doing these cruises for their fans, right? They have like the meet and greets and stuff. Like
Yeah.
the Beatles weren't
Yeah,
interested.
I mean, it is a pretty insane idea for, this film and stuff, and trying to look. It's funny because you said, in the film, they have a 4-track recorder, and they can't even get an 8-track
Yes, at some point, one of them
from
says,
EMI.
yeah, one of them, they're like, why can't we get an 8-track recorder in here? And they're like, well, it's on a budget, or we're cheap or something. And it's like, well, we're signed with EMI and the Beach Boys get 8-track. How come we're the Beatles and we can't get
Right,
8-track?
right.
And it's like, yeah, how come the Beatles can't get 8-track?
Yeah, and, they were talking about moving all this equipment and people and lighting and cameras and fans and stuff
Yeah,
on a giant ship.
in a giant ship or the Colosseum.
Yeah,
They kept on showing pictures of a Colosseum.
yeah.
And I was just like, what is this, like an opera thing? Like,
Yeah, with lights and power and generators. It's
yeah, it's
pretty
like,
crazy.
sure, and where's the 8-track? Yeah. So we're talking about like our impressions of it.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I would say that it's definitely fascinating, but there are so many nuances to this documentary that's going on that Joe's kissing Kudo. And if people haven't met Kudo, did you want to just hoist her up and show the peoples the evil cat? She's hard to see. Maybe move her over toward me. Closer. No, not getting closer. No, she's up here because she's obsessed with Joe. But yeah, so we're talking about our impressions, and maybe it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and hopefully for those of you who may have caught it, there might be a little bit more of it that makes sense. But definitely just fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And it might get a little bit old, but for me, it's an incredible thing for me to be able to say that I'm able to watch it, because hello, David. Thank you for joining us. No 8-track for you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently EMI were 8-track Nazis.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. You've got like one of your biggest selling artists, and you can't even get 8-track player for them. Like
Yeah, I mean, what was that about? Like, I mean, what band? Like, if the Beach Boys could get 8-track, what other band in the world, uh, at that time in
yeah,
1969, do you think should have gotten an 8-track?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. And I mean, the Beach Boys were pretty much done in 1969 in terms of writing songs and stuff. Like because Brian Wilson was, I guess, at that point checking out, and then you had what's it, Mike Love? Is it Mike Love? He took over the band, and then they did. I've listened to some of those records from the early '70s Beach Boys records. They're terrible.
yeah, I don't know
Yeah, they're
I
almost
don't
like
really know much
country
about.
records or something because
Yeah,
it's just yeah. There's not a song like there's no good
hi
vibrations
David.
or anything like that.
Yeah,
They're terrible songs.
I don't know too much about the Beach Boys, but I wanted to say hi to David. Thank you so much. I think it's your first time here.
Hello,
Um,
welcome.
Thank you. And would you mind telling us where you're coming in from today? That would be nice. And have you seen the? We were talking about the first part one of Get Back,
Beatles
the
Get
Beatles
Back.
Get Back doc. It's on Disney Plus, so I know not everybody does. Um, keep a stiffer upper lip. Oh, about where you're coming in from,
Mm.
or just something else? Oh, you're from England.
England. That's it. There you go.
You can't make me think.
Mm.
Thinking isn't my forte. I can read, just
Mm.
barely. But thank you, David, for joining us. And have you seen the doc? We were just talking about how, yeah, like the 8-track thing, and how crazy that was, and yet they're talking about the director, and it's talking about
Playing the
playing the
Coliseum or
Coliseum or the boat or
yeah,
Libya
yeah, yeah.
someplace, and it's like, why couldn't they get? I mean, you would think that the live component sure would be important, but so is the recording part. You would think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, little.
Little Rock,
That's that's very far from
England.
England. And so
But
I maybe guessed wrong.
maybe he's English, living in Liverpool.
Perhaps. Thank you for joining us from Little Rock, and I hope you're having a good Thanksgiving. You have not seen it yet. Um, we were just saying
It's pretty incredible.
yeah, it's a pretty incredible thing just to get such an inside view of. I think I don't know. I don't. There are, I guess, contemporary artists who do these kind of documentaries, but I'm sure it's very highly curated, and I'm sure this is highly curated as well, from like 60 hours. But there's just something about um, I don't know, like it just seems like a zoom back version, or like when people say if I could be a fly in that room.
Mm,
I feel like that's sort of like what this has been.
yeah,
Like that, at least the first 2.5 hours that we watched was
yeah.
just like being in a fly in the room from the place, from
52 years ago.
52 years ago, but for just even from the beginning of the process, from the time that they kind of like walk into this warehouse space for the first time to sort of what's happening to them on a daily basis up until whatever happens. The first part of it goes until, I don't know, the first week or something like that, a
Mm.
week and a half maybe. And there's a lot that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it feels like a little.
It's over 2 hours each
Whew,
episode, so you're like 6 hours of.
I think six and a half, 6, 7, probably 7, all
Mm,
in, because I think the first one was like
mm,
220, the second one is 230.
mm.
I think the last one is
Yeah,
maybe even a little bit more
yeah,
than that.
yeah.
So
Peter Jackson can't make a short film,
no,
can
no,
he?
they got the right guy to do like long form
No, for
stuff.
sure.
And so David says, like, have not seen it yet. But what is the don't be greedy, this piece here? Don't be greedy. Who are we talking about in terms of
Turkey.
the don't be greedy? And I want to see it now. I honestly, I think it's really worthwhile.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, if you're like just a music fan or especially a Beatles fan, because I've always read about Let It Be, the sessions, and I used to have a couple bootlegs where you would hear some of the demos of the songs. And I saw the original film a long, long time ago on VHS, like just a really shitty copy. Um, and it was hard to make out. And that's been out of print for years. But to see this and see them working on the songs and how they interact, and you know, um, even that long rumor that Yoko Ono broke up the Beatles. I mean, she's sitting on a chair knitting, during this
sometimes.
sometimes during this documentary, and she's not, jumping in or saying telling them how to write songs or whatnot. She's just there, and like just knitting or listening or getting into the music. Like
Yeah,
it's
she was taking a lot of notes and stuff like that, or maybe
Mhm.
sketching and things like that
Yeah,
too.
and I mean Linda McCartney is going around taking pictures, which I'm sure they were okay with, but if you're working, I find that way more intrusive, like constantly taking pictures of you working. But
Mm.
they were okay with it. But I'm saying the big, you know, um, known, like it's not like the big thing all these years was like, oh, Yoko broke up the Beatles because she was interfering and this and that, and I see none of that.
Well, I think that um, my feeling is that it doesn't come across on film, but it must be odd for the three other guys to have this woman um, all of a sudden um, um, like all of a sudden be like in like literally in the inner circle while they're trying to create. um I think that that could be a source of tension for the other three guys. I can see that. It doesn't seem to come across on camera that way, but I can see how, like, like if you had like four of your best friends and or three of your best friends and you wanted to hang out, and all of a sudden um like a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a wife or a husband just sort of like sneaks in and just
Yeah, it's true.
sitting there
Yes.
sitting there like wordlessly.
Yeah,
That's
you're gonna go to work and someone brings their wife
and they're just
in
kind of like
or
sitting there.
husband, and they're
Yeah,
just sitting there
yeah.
knitting. Yeah, I guess that is a
I
little
think
odd.
that'd be a little bit odd. And I have my anyway. But at the same time, there were other people there, not in like literally the circle of the four of them creating. So Linda was there, like Joe was saying, Linda McCartney, who was Paul's first wife, and she was in there taking pictures sometimes. And then like George had brought like Hare Krishnas like
Yeah.
in the background. Like, who would have known that's a thing.
And Ringo's wife was there.
Yeah, so
There was actually a funny bit where George, he leaves, and then they come back, Paul, John, Ringo, and Yoko, and they're just kind of jamming, but they're making noise just out of frustration. Because Paul, I think, even says, "Yeah, I don't know why we came back here," because um, George left. And at the end of it, Paul goes up to Ringo's wife and says, "Oh, learn A7, G7, D7, and you're in the
as a
band,"
joke, I
as a
think.
joke,
Yeah.
right? Like, because they were saying, "Well, what if George doesn't come back?" And I think
And
John
that's
goes, we'll get Eric Clapton.
so this is kind of a spoiler if you're not familiar with Beatles history.
They broke up, by the way. Just so you know.
Ultimately, they broke up. They're still all around.
Spoiler, they broke up.
They're not like the Rolling Stones or anything. But during the Let It Be sessions, at one point, and this is documented in the first part, that George just gets up and leaves, says that he's out of the band, and I think that's when it's so poignant, and just to see how the three of them, so uh, George, Paul, and John and Ringo, are kind of hit with George leaving, but then there are all these people around them who are like trying to record and trying to do this thing,
film and watch.
Yeah, and so they're asked, the director is like, so what do we do now, and all this kind of stuff, and you can see that the three of them are still processing, and that it's not just a bandmate that laughed. This is like somebody that you've gone through this whole history, this whole
like when you
odyssey.
were 13.
Well, no, but it's like having gone through something super intense that no one else can understand.
Yeah, for sure. But
For
I mean,
like
they were all like 13, 14, 15.
For a long time.
Up until I guess their late 20s.
But
so
you have to know like that what the Beatles went through was an extraordinary experience, and only they could know. Only the three of them could know what it was like. And then for one of them just to up and leave and say, I'm done. And then for all these people to be like, so what do you want to do? What do you want to do, now? And all this kind of stuff. Like, you're just not, like, they're not even given,
yeah, they're still in
a
shock.
moment to, to just deal with what's going on. And I guess they all go for lunch, which they don't film. They come back and you could tell they're just getting their frustrations out through their instruments, and just by just playing songs and like swinging around on like rafters and stuff. And then there are all these like business people around them going like, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? I can't even imagine what that must have been like just for the three of them. It's very fascinating to see. But just say hi. We're doing okay. And in terms of moderators, I don't know that right now, just being as small as we are, that like moderators are necessary. But thank you for asking about that. The Beatles should not accept special treatment. Who are they? Well, they're the Beatles back in 1969. And you would think, maybe. Maybe we have Karma saying, you guys are too young for this. I saw them wow, my older sister and cousin kissing the TV. You two have fun. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be on for just a couple more minutes, I think. And and if you can join us on Thursday night, we will be back on live again. I appreciate your support and your love, Karma. Thank you. But yeah, and by then maybe we would have seen the second part. So just and maybe we'll do one each for them. And this we're doing for us just as much as maybe people interested in knowing.
Yeah, because it takes a long time to watch them, and you really have to pay attention because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
So it's just a good thing to talk about it.
Yeah, and also too, like we woke up this morning and we're just lying around in bed and
snowing
outside. And I was trying to get Joe to take us to Costco, but he says no, because we don't have snow tires yet. But yeah, we were just talking about this episode and how, or this particular part, and how I think the one thing, like I said, that I was really surprised about was how like nuanced it is. It's literally, it's like being a fly on the wall. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
incredible, but there's so much that's going on um, that I feel like it's not just watching the Beatles like work through this thing. It's a lot more than that. So it's I think it feels like an incredible thing to be witness to this, and for a band that's been iconic as they have been for so long to yeah, pretty incredible. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Um, well, watching it, they're 28.
They're 28.
Um, so 1969. No, sorry. So John Lennon would be 29. Paul McCartney would be 28.
That's crazy.
Ringo Starr would be 29.
That's crazy.
And George is probably 27. So, yeah, they're still incredibly young,
Yeah.
so it's weird to watch because for my whole life, you know, getting into the Beatles and being a Beatles fan, I was always younger than them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
watching this footage as, like pushing 50 years old. And, I mean, I know Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr that much older than us, but it's just weird to see them so young. And I guess with the footage, it's all cleaned up
It's
and it's
beautiful. Yeah, you
beautiful.
don't
Yeah,
think apart from the really weird
yeah.
like
People wore lime green and purple in 1969 for some
and and
weird
and, and
reason.
woolly
Woolly
coats.
coats. And, yeah, people had strange fashion sense.
Well, we all do it. Like 50 years
Hmm.
later, it's all gonna
Yeah.
look
Oh,
weird.
and the other thing I wanted to mention too, when George leaves and the band gets frustrated and they're all making noise and jamming, getting their frustration out. There's a scaffold, and Paul McCartney starts like swinging around it like monkey bars too.
Yeah, I was
I
just
thought that
like,
was kind of
uh-huh.
just to get his frustration out.
Or like, I'm sure there was a lot of energy, just pent up energy in there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, David says relationships grow, they can fade, they can run their course, including musical groups.
true.
And I think that not only is that true, if you really like can even remotely imagine what it would have been like for them, these four individuals specifically, to have gone through what they did, um, like so much in such a short period of time, from just being these little upstarts from Liverpool to Hamburg to just changing drummers to working with George Martin to Beatlemania to like so many different things like in this 10-year period that happened to them in like that can only happen for most people in their fantasies in their
Mm-hmm.
dreams, but they had to live through it, and all four of them um, had each other to have gone through it, and then to have all these like, and then for Brian Epstein to pass away, um, and I'm sure like countless other things that we'll never know about. But I mean, how is it that these bands that go through, this kind of intensity stay together? And even I don't know as much about the Rolling Stones, but you know
They've had lineup changes.
they've had lineup changes, but also like Mick and Keith are known. I don't think like to always get along.
Yeah, I mean, I think with them, they were very. I mean, Brian Jones was a problem because of um, his drug use and stuff. So, about the late '60s, so they kicked him out of the band because he um, um, was more of like a blues musician, and they were doing like psychedelic stuff, and so they kicked him out of the band and replaced him. Um, and then Mick Taylor was in the band, and he was with them for 5 years or stuff. And he's a very different guitarist than Brian Jones. And then he
Are we gonna go through the?
no, and then he, well, I probably will, yes. So.
I don't
And then
want
he
that.
left, and Ron Wood took over. But yeah, like Mick and Keith, I think were definitely, I think, getting into the '80s, not getting along, and that's kind of why they broke up. But then they got back together, and even now, I don't know really how close they are. I think the Rolling Stones is just
They're a
this
machine.
thing, a machine, right? So,
yeah, I'm sure. Like
I doubt they hang out together or even really converse on stage that much or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's. I actually think it's a little like that with McCartney and Ringo Starr. Like they're together, like as it like in public as a thing to keep.
No, they talk about how they go to dinner together and stuff all the time.
Okay, I'm wrong.
I've been watching these interviews where they're like, yeah, like we went for dinner and we were just looking at each. Why would they just say that? No, they seem like
They hate each other.
So what am I supposed to believe about anything else that you? Because I heard it from the horse.
Okay.
Because it's one thing, like Mick's, like now Keith says stuff about Mick openly. And so I believe
that
stuff
they're
that
not
comes,
that close.
So. Like, and that they have separate. Well, they would have separate dressing rooms and stuff, but that sometimes they don't even see each other until they're on stage and things like that. I've heard them say, like at least I think Keith say, whereas like Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, they talk about how they get together on a regular basis and they have dinners, and sometimes it's weird because they'll be having dinner and people will be talking about the Beatles and they're just kind of looking at each other like we know, but how do you think you know that kind of thing. So anyway, we have I'm just thinking about a minute or so to go. If anyone has any questions. Oh, we have David say the Eagles has a lot of internal strife. Don Felder wrote a memoir about the time as an Eagle between heaven and hell. Very fascinating.
And you know what? We saw that documentary on the
Eagles.
And they were a real dick to him. I mean, they were Don Henley and
they did have a lot of strife.
Glenn Fry, they were a real dick to, and I can't remember why, but he was heartbroken.
Don Henley?
No, Don Felder, because they brought him back into the band, I guess when they reformed, and then they kicked him out again for some reason, and I think he was like very upset on the documentary. It's
a fascinating account. Yeah, that documentary was very interesting.
Yeah. Don Henley seems like a type of guy who
kind of looks jerky.
Jerky.
It is pretty incredible though, like between Don Henley and Glenn Fry, the music they made outside of the Eagles seemed very different. And they had their own thing in the 80s, right? But yeah, Don Henley doesn't. Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around.
Who's not
Glenn
around?
Fry.
Glenn Fry passed away. Yeah, never been a big fan of Don Henley's, but it's almost like that Eagles documentary kind of like cemented it for me. He goes.
It's like we saw that documentary on Billy Joel.
No, it wasn't on Billy Joel. It was a documentary on supporting artists, people who are session musicians or supporting artists.
Yeah, in his band. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess his ego got too big or that, and the guys who were with him for a long time.
Who they call Fingers? They called him Fingers. Which one?
Don Henley?
Not sure who they called him Fingers.
I think he tried to sue David Geffen, didn't he?
Who?
Don Henley.
Oh, I wouldn't put it past him. He's such a weirdo. But there's another documentary that we watched where it was about people who were in the bands of these bigger acts. It's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one guy who was with Billy Joel from the very beginning. And there was a couple of them, but the one guy that was talking about it, he was just saying how Billy Joel, like as he got more and more popular, became
his ego.
Yeah, not just his ego, but like there must have been something that happened too around getting taken advantage of or having money taken from him or something like that, because there's a couple of things where he talks about, or the guy who got kicked out of Billy Joel's band after like ages and ages, he was in it from the beginning, but then got kicked out, but so unceremoniously, and like from his account, we don't know Billy Joel's account, but from his account, just seemed just very unfair, especially for the history. And I think a lot of it had to like really do with money. Like it just
wasn't. Well, there was one thing where he was going to get on a plane. They were going to go to the next gig or that. This session guy, I can't remember his name. And
he was a part of his band, though.
Yeah, he's part of his band.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh no, you have to take the bus."
And he had never had to do that before.
He never had to do that before. So Billy wants an extra seat so he can put his feet up. Like, is like,
yeah,
so stupid.
So up until that point, for years and years and years, he got to fly with Billy Joel. But then one day, it happened to another bandmate of his too that got let go a little while before him. But he knew it was his time when he got on the plane, and they were like, "You're not welcome on this plane anymore." And it's like, that's the way that you tell somebody that's been in your band for a bunch of years from the beginning that you're not going to want to work with him anymore. That's so crazy. So David's saying that Felder is the one they called Fingers, and that he was only Fingers to them. They did not value Felder as a human being.
Yeah, they just called them Fingers.
It's horrible.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know a lot about Don Felder, but I do know he wrote one of the best songs ever, and it's on the heavy metal soundtrack. It's called Heavy Metal Take a Ride. It's just an awesome kick-ass song. I would take that any day of the week over any Eagles song. Sorry. And just the guitar riffs and how
heavy metal gets a lot of still, like, it's from the soundtrack. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because it's a weird soundtrack, but it's so good. It's got
movie is weird, but...
Don Felder, there's Sammy Hagar, Journey's on it. It's like a really weird mix of artists, but it's so good, and that's such a great song.
Uh-oh. So David, this Thursday we're going to do another live stream where we're going to be doing we're going to individually be putting together the worst lineup for a music festival that we can come up with, so individually, and we're going to compare them and see who has the worst lineup for a music festival.
So it would be like
don't give any ideas. It'd just be like
it'd be like Woodstock '99, or it would be like Lollapalooza, but it's called torture. So you would pick the worst artists, put them all in a lineup to play. And and then they would do their single things. You would pick the worst artists you can't stand. They would do their sets, and then at the end, just like all those other concerts, like Live Aid, and that they all come out for a big stupid
Oh,
jam at the end.
It'd be just the most terrible jam in the world.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you'd like to join us, David, and
Yes.
with your version of the worst lineup for a music festival of all time, I hope you can join us on
Oh,
Thursday.
see, look, I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
so this is something that Joe was saying he didn't know about Felder, that he
Yeah.
wrote Hotel California. So
Yeah,
clearly he was
their
more than
biggest hit.
fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It just shows you how certain personalities can um, overpower some personalities, and just because like you're talented doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the credit that you deserve, or even just the respect that you deserve, especially if you have crappy band members who are jerks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, so on Thursday, if you wanted to join us, it's in the evening, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what Arkansas goes by, but 6 o'clock Pacific Standard. And if you can join us, that would be great. And we're also, Joe and I are also, we drafted our our superhero teams the other day as we were in a line up to get gas. So we'll choose those, and maybe you can people can tell us what they think about our superhero lineup. So our version, I guess, of the Avengers or whatever, like the Justice League or whatever it is.
Yeah. So you pick the best heroes to do a super team, and it can be from Marvel.
No,
or
but that's
DC.
we're just only doing that's what we did. We're going to be sharing that with you. But on Thursday, what we're going to do is
we'll just one thing.
We'll do one thing at a time. It's
so the worst concert.
The worst concert
festival
ever. Five. I think five
bands. But you could throw in a few more if you want,
or a few less if you want. But 5 is just sort of like the baseline. And
do they have to be living or dead?
Doesn't matter. Just the worst bands of all time.
The worst bands.
So Torture.
Torture. 2002.
2002.
Or sorry, 2022. Sorry.
Jesus. So that's on Thursday coming up. At 9 o'clock in the evening, or EST, or 6 o'clock PST. David, I hope you can join us. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any questions for us? You've been awesome. Have you been a subscriber and watching our stuff? Any feedback for us? Always looking for feedback. Joe's kissing his cat. Because Kudo's trying to kill me. Might be some delay, and I don't know how many people are actually here. So for anyone else that's out there, if you have any questions or anything for us, we'd be more than we'd like to be interactive. So appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and if you have watched our other videos, thank you for that. And if you want to join us for this Thursday, that would be awesome as well. If there isn't anything else, any questions for us, we'll sign off soon. And we'll figure out how to that bot was really annoying.
Yes.
And we'll also be back, I think, unscheduled, to talk about part 2 and part 3 of
the Beatles.
The Beatles. Look how excited Joe is.
Sorry, it's early. I'm getting
from the baseball guy. You came through Zach.
Yes.
Zach was actually here on a live stream the last time. We had like this super epic one that just went on for hours and hours and hours, and he hopped on.
It was like 4 hours.
It was 4 hours. And Zach hopped on, and that was fun to have him hop on. That happened a couple of Thursdays ago.
He didn't really want to talk about baseball. He was just taking a break from it. You know, just...
which is totally
Yeah,
understandable. I mean, gosh,
understandable. Yeah.
it's like if that's what you do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also his commodity. Like he probably just doesn't want to give it away. Just like talk about baseball all the time. But I'm glad that you joined us through Zach. And I hope you enjoyed that video of us in New York. We certainly really enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
being there. And yeah, Zach's really amazing. So there's also and he put it out there a little while ago, and we watched this I think yesterday or the day before. There's like a Jay Leno.
Talk show.
It's not a talk. It's a
Oh, sorry,
game
game show.
show, and he was on one of them. It was, I don't understand the "You Bet Your Life" part. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the?
That's an old.
I know, but like, what's the "You Bet Your Life" part of that? They just ask you a bunch of questions, and you answer them
With a partner.
with a partner. But I don't understand the "You Bet Your Life" part anyway. But that's the that's the game show, and it's on YouTube. And it's the episode called "Foul Ball," I think. If you're interested in watching Zach be on a game show.
Yeah. You know what was funny about it? Jay Leno had no idea who he was.
No, none of them had any idea.
Jay Leno, like, it's so weird, and he was almost like doing a little bit of the Tonight Show, like that card thing.
Yeah.
That card bit from the Tonight Show where he takes news clippings. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, then it just goes into this game show.
Yeah, with this other guy.
And then he was saying to Zach, "Oh, what, you caught like 11,000 balls? You know, like
Yeah.
Jay Leno." And Zach's like, "Well, I get toss ups," and he's like, "Oh, yeah, all right," you know, and he's like, "Hey, can you catch any?" You know, he's like,
Memorable.
I caught A Rod's 3,000 hit and Mike Trout's first home run." "Oh, really?" You know.
Yeah.
He had no clue, like he didn't even do any research on Zach, or like, oh wow, this guy's got like a huge YouTube following.
They have notes on him clearly, and you know his like, it's not like Jay Leno isn't going to do any research on any of these people. It's going to be like their production people that's going to give them notes or whatever. But it and not everybody knows Zach.
No, for sure. But I mean, you know, we watched it, and I mean, Zach was just having fun.
Yeah.
On this game show.
Mm.
And basically, you know, the video ended on YouTube, and it didn't have like a ton of views on it.
No.
So I mean, there's more people watching Zach's videos
Sure.
than Jay Leno's stupid show.
Well,
right? Like,
whatever.
I'm just saying, you know.
And Zach is great,
He
has a positive. Not only does he have a positive mental attitude, he is. Well, Joe's snacking in case, which I would not recommend.
Sorry.
But I guess he's hungry. But it's like he's like, I am constantly like just in awe of how diverse his interests are. Because as much as he's the baseball guy, or you know, if you're at a stadium with him, people call him all kinds of crazy things, like the foul ball guy, the home run guy, the baseball guy, whatever. Like he has all these things that people call him. But he's like, the one thing that I found out about on that Jay Leno show was that he's also a Scrabble champion, or he was a competitive Scrabble player, and that back in the day, like he holds records from some video games, and he writes, and he's a published author, and he's part of a writing group, and he loves music, and like he's such a diverse guy that it's not just, you know, baseball, and he's able to hold all of that like organized in his brain. And also, like, I think he has different ways of organizing, because he, you know, has lists and stuff like that he has. And we have like this forced perspective thing right now where my head's like really giant, and Joe's
I'm way back.
way back. And half of him.
I injured my arm though, so that's part of it.
That's why you're That's why you can't sit on your butt.
No, I was sitting here, but it's very uncomfortable. Like I'm not actually on the cushion. I'm on the edge of the couch.
Yeah. And there's a cat actually between us.
Right,
That's a big
so.
thing. But yeah, so you can't go on about Zach enough. Zach enough. Zach enough. He's amazing, and it was really great that he hopped on the other day, and we got a chance to talk to him for a little bit. So can't promise that that's what'll happen on Thursday, but hopefully it will be another fun time. So hopefully you'll join us, David. And it was so great for us to be able to get to know you today a little bit better, and for our surprise one, we had a few people show. That was really great.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're good at that was a cat. We're going to be doing a couple more wrap ups for our review of the Beatles, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Thank you.
Sorry.
You gonna say goodbye? Bye bye. Thank you. Join us on Thursday. Chemistry.